It is 6 p.m. This is the Community Development Corporation, our regular meeting of Monday, May 1st, 2023. We'll start by calling the meeting to order. We have a forum and Miss Jackie. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Invocation and pledge. Mr. Milo.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today, and we thank you for opportunity to gather again as a board, and we thank you for each one's service to this community. Continue to bless them and their families and bless them in their decisions. Special prayer tonight for Bill, and we pray that he has quick healing and recovery, and that he's able to be back here again soon. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under item C, Ms. Jackie, we have anybody signed up for the Citizens Forum? That being the case, we move on to item D, action items. Under D1, we have consideration and action to approve the page 3 of your packet.
I'll make the motion that we consider and take action and approve the minutes from April 3rd, 2023.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. We approve the minutes of April 3rd, 2023. Any questions, comments, discussion? That being the case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, it's unanimous. Moving on to item D2, consideration and action to acknowledge the April 2023 financial report under A, monthly, B, year-to-date, and C, sales tax report. That's on page 11 of your packet. Mr. Milo.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's in page 11 where it starts, but we didn't put the insert because the end of the month wasn't until yesterday. I was going to say Saturday, but yesterday. So today's May 1st. This concludes for April. The first page is just the check register. Probably the only one is Gulf Data Products there next to the last, and Desi will show you that. It's folders that we use for when we have prospective businesses stop by here. Myself, Desi, Val uses them to give to businesses when we have any kind of business meeting, and pretty nice. And he'll show you that in a minute. But that's the only thing that's out of the ordinary, although we order those from time to time. The next page is the starting of the budget report. We're already 7 months in, which is 58.39% through the budget. As you can see, the top two lines are our revenue, interest, and sales tax. We are basically right at budget. Sales tax is 57.91%, so very, very close, within about 4/100ths of a percentage. We had a good sales tax, 50,608.76. So that, along with the interest so far for the year, is 328,904.85. So puts us at 58.61% of our budget, which is right on target. On expenditures, so far only 18.83% of total expenditures. You can see there at the bottom, total of year-to-date, $105,655.93. The different line items you can see, we're good in each one of the line items, so there's no signals of alert for anything. Everything is trending very well. The next two pages are just summaries of that information. I've already read those off to you. And then the last page, it gives you our sales tax for the year and the month. Like I said, we had a very good April, which if you'll look back, that's actually February's, because February, when they finish, you're supposed to remit it by March 20th, I think, and then we get it in April. So as you can see, it's 50,608.76, which is 33.49% increase over last year. So whatever happened in February, maybe some people paid from a different month or something, been behind and caught up, or maybe it's just rodeo receipts for good business activity in February. So that puts us at $324,276.70, which is about $14,000 above last year and 4.52% over last year. So better, 30% makes a big impact on the year to date. So if you remember, we were flat last month, and I told you, don't worry, we'll be okay. So we're okay. And that's all my report.
Thank you, Mr. Milo. Any questions, comments, discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve, to acknowledge the April 2023 financial report, A monthly, B year-to-date report, sales tax report.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. We acknowledge the April 2023 financial report, monthly, year-to-date, and sales tax. Any questions, comments, discussion? That being the case, all in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. Item number 3, consideration and action to purchase Christmas decorations for the parks. That's page 12 of your docket. Mr. Milo.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you can see in your packet, there's 2 items. When we purchased the Christmas lights, y'all tasked us to look for something else for Memorial Park and something else for Community Park, because the other purchase we made was for here in the Christmas tree. So we got together, and one of the things we wanted to do is not make it burdensome and undue burdensome to our public works folks, because it's just a lot of time they already put out. So as you can see, the things that were selected were flat, easy to store, but also easy to set up. And so this first one is for Memorial Park. It's just under $6,000. It's Santa's Workshop, elves, and a sleigh, looks like, and a little Christmas tree and some presents and quite a bit of different things, 11-piece set. And so we would like to put that at Memorial Park, right there in front of the pool where the tree is. So that's for there. If you go a couple pages over to page 16 and 17, that's for Community Park. And we'll have elves. We already have the Christmas tree, so this doesn't include that Christmas tree, but we already have one there. So it'll have the elves with some presents and candy cane, and then we also have a camper with a Christmas tree on the top, and looks like the family's going camping. So we thought that would be a good one for the main road there in front by the library. And so those are the 2 items for there at $3784.94 total. So the 2 together make up $9,779.94. In case shipping is off, if you're willing to do both of them, if you could approve $10,000 in case that shipping is a little bit off, depending on the weight, they do the estimation on that. So that's our recommendation.
Any questions, comments, discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to consider in the action to purchase the Christmas decorations to the park up to $10,000.
I second that motion that we approve $10,000 or up to $10,000 for the purchase of Christmas decoration for our parks.
There's a motion and a second that we approve 10,000 for Christmas decorations for our parks. Any questions, comments, discussion? That being the case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, it's unanimous. Moving on to item D4, consideration and action to add to the business incentive program offering grants for interior cosmetics, set criteria and maximum amount. Page 19 of your packet, Mr. Milo.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, several of you through time have mentioned, you know, is there any other grants we can offer our existing businesses mainly? We have the sign grant, which has been hugely successful. More recently, seemed like we're getting some storefront improvement grants. Not as many landscaping, but most businesses don't have a lot of room for landscaping, so that's probably why it's not a big thing. But a lot of our we have tenants that lease out of a complex that might have 5 suites. And so the storefront and that kind of, and the landscaping is really the property owner's responsibility. So there's really not a benefit for those businesses unless it's the little signs. And if you'll recall, they're usually less expensive for those because they're just right on the front of that suite of their complex. This would give some help for them for an interior renovation. We toyed around with the idea of what to call it, just interior or what. We said we finally settled on interior cosmetics because we don't think, and I put in my notes, we don't think that we should get involved in electrical, plumbing, or any structural work because that gets into a lot of stuff, or air conditioning, alarms, fire extinguishers, because that's all behind the scenes. What we would like is to propose that it would be for painting, maybe some woodwork or paneling. Paneling's not real popular these days, but there are some types of paneling that fit different places. But it would be for walls, flooring, ceiling, lighting, to make it brighter, maybe LED lights that would help. So that's the thought, and it would be an equivalent to your storefront, which is more. It'd be a total of $15,000, which the CDC share would be $7,500. But we think that would help some of these businesses that locate into a plaza. It would help the others that own a bigger place, but it sure would help them too in painting and making the place look different, inviting for their clients.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes.
Okay. $7,500, if we happen to have 100 businesses in Los Fresnos that go for this, is $75,000. Is that right? My math right? And I have a concern that this would be something that a landlord would do and then up the rent for the tenant. And are we helping to hurt them by doing that? I think the criteria needs to be very well set out, so we don't have landlords encouraging tenants renters to, hey, go, they'll give you $7,500. And we got a lot of businesses. That's my concern, that it could be like a windfall for landowners, the building owners. So that's my concern. that we could quickly wind up hurting our businesses instead of helping them. And those are my comments. I don't know what anybody else has to say.
Yeah, I've got a couple of concerns as well. Am I on? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I believe that, I mean, mainly the criteria that we're gonna establish for that and who's gonna evaluate, whether it's somebody from the CDC to evaluate it or a team or something like that. I mean, at some point, we gotta get involved in the evaluation and decision of approving a project like that. And that was, I'll second the concern that we probably just gotta be critical of how many businesses we have in town and what's the likelihood of, the amount of burden that'll be placed on us at this time in our money, the monies that are available. And then whether or not we're gonna focus mainly on small business or maybe a little larger scale business and those kind of things. And again, some of those things that do to me as well seem a little bit like they're the property of the landowner. If there's a tenant that wants to, fix up the building, make it more attractive for business, and I think that's a great idea, and I think we should help them out a little bit any way we can, but those are my main concerns. And then, I agree that we probably shouldn't get too deep into it, such as electrical and plumbing, even though that could be a safety issue at some point, and I think that's probably should be, again, the responsibility of the property owner. But those are my main concerns that I have that just popped up. If anybody else has anything.
You want me to address a couple of those? I can address the, you could do it for tenants only. If I have a plaza, as a plaza owner, I wouldn't be eligible for that, but the tenants would. Now, if I own the business, say, the Wings, Arnie's Wingstop, I own that business, and so I also operate it. Owner operated would be qualified, but a person that owned the plaza couldn't apply for it to get all of them. I just want them all repainted because it's time. No, the tenant would have to do that on a not a owner occupied place. So that would resolve that concern. All of our grants are reviewed by staff on items, what they do, as well as the committee that looks at it. They always look at the way the sign looks, and we want to be sure it's, in the early days, we didn't as good but now we do colored, and, what does that sign look like? What is the exterior going to look like? So that committee looks at it after staff has looked at it to say, yes, it fits in with what's going to be done and what we want our community to look like. The interior would be much the same way. They would have to show us a rendering, show us something that would make us feel comfortable with what we're doing. The early days, we were real worried about the amount we put on budgeted. You brought up a good concern about, what if we get bombarded? We had we started with 20,000 back early days. We very seldom got there. I think the only time we've ever gotten there is when we've had some that rolled over were delayed from one year to the next. But you can approve those subject to money available. That's the same way with the sign grant. Just because I come in with a sign grant, if we all of a sudden have a bunch of sign grants, hey, we released our max this year, we'll have to wait until next budget year. So you can do those things as they come through we've we've never run into that problem. Now we've upped it to 30,000. We did that 2 years ago just because of the cost of things. We upped it to 30,000 a year whenever we changed the grant amounts. If you'll recall, we went up on those because of price increases through time. So you can manage those approvals through your budget. And so that can really not an issue, because you can say, you know, we're tapped out. It's July and we're tapped out on this year's budget. We'll approve it subject to you doing it starting in October, or come back in October, however you see to fit. So those two, that'll be resolved if you do it. Either you operate basically you operate that business, whether it's a tenant or you own or operate it. That would resolve the issue that you're concerned about. Me as I own 5 suites, and I say, well, yeah, let me do all of them, and just an upgrade. Although that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but we want it to go to the tenants, so we could make that criteria. And then again, I think the last one was, well, I already mentioned it, is we review of the staff as well as a committee, and then before it comes to you.
I have a comment. I like the idea, but I think maybe to start it with a smaller amount of 5,000, for example, because what we've seen is that we've had businesses come in, and 3, 4, 6 months later, they either move or they either move locations, or they close down and move just outside the city. So I like that we can call back the grant. I think that was one of the options that we had, but maybe putting a clause in there that if you move, or you're within, I don't know, 6 months or a year, they would have to pay that back, because in reality it's not gonna. We're just putting the money to fix somebody else's place. That's one of the ideas that I have. That way, it also gives us a measure to say, okay, are we meeting this? Are we exceeding our budget? Are we only helping 10 businesses instead of 20? I think if we started with 5 and put some of those clauses in there, I think that could work. And we set up a budget to say, we'll, like you said, match 30,000 or 20,000, and that's the idea of not exceeding too much for one business.
I agree, and I do like the 6 months or a year. We've never done that, but there's been some times where we as a staff have gone, they do it, and we might need to. That might need to be something that you consider, either 6 months, a year. So it means that if I've got a lease, I've got to have at least a year's lease if I'm gonna do it, and then that shows good faith. Otherwise, they have to pay it back. Of course, they probably would just go on bankrupt if they're leaving, unless they're going to another place. But
Yeah, because
nevertheless,
we've had that where businesses open up and then they end up going to another location, and it's within the city, but they keep jumping from place to place, so I think
Well,
that's
we,
good.
we did that with the gas line for the wing place. That we initially set it over here, the other side of Walmart, and then they said, no, we bought this place. But I want to add to his, I like the idea of a $5,000 limit, because that limits our exposure, but I would like to cap the number of the grant. Maybe I first thought 10, that would be 50 grand, but we could do for the first year, maybe do 5 at 5,000 and see how it works, and see if our criteria needs tweaking. See if we need to maybe do a little more, do a little less, put some more, because a bakery is not the same as a grocery store, and it's not the same as a laundromat. So those are my thoughts on it.
Now, I also have a question, Mark. Most of our businesses are paid sales taxes or do sales taxes, but there's some that don't, like a beauty salon where they don't do sales tax because it's a service. It's not a, what do they call it? It's not goods. So are we doing it across the board, or are we doing it, do we target those businesses that do pay? I don't know on that.
On a personal note, I think you do it because we want all of those services, whether the state says a particular business pays sales tax or doesn't, we want those services in our community. It creates jobs, it creates income for those to be able to, that business owner, or maybe it's someone that, like a barber, they might have 6 people in there. One guy's the owner usually, and the other 6 are just renting a chair, but they still buy food and buy groceries and usually live in this community or at least nearby. So I wouldn't suggest going that. It's a business in our community, and it provides a good value for our citizens.
I think this, I don't think this action item calls for setting criteria and maximum amount. I think we need to work on criteria more than the maximum amount a little, so maybe it's something we could carry into next month. The idea, I don't oppose the idea. I've actually, in legal terms, the landowner owns a building, and if we put in something that's like paneling, wood flooring, those are fixtures, and that has legal ramifications because the fixtures stay with the building. So is a benefit to the business or the owner? So we need to kind of clear those things out a little bit. And I thought, well, maybe we can help the business owner by, okay, maybe you need a new cooler, maybe baker or pizza man, you need a new oven, something along those lines, So there's a lot of open-ended, unanswered questions, and I think maybe we carry it over to next month, we can come back with something a little, I don't want to say stronger, but a little more detailed. So, unless there's a motion.
Will this fall on the committee that does the sign grants and stuff like that? Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
Okay, so we'll table this for now? Or take no
Or
action?
just take no action, and next week or so we'll meet, depending on Bill, and either you two or with Bill.
Yeah, we'll take no action on it and move on to item D5, consideration and action to approve the Community Development Capital Improvement Program Committee Annual Report. That's on page 23 of your packet, Mr. Milo.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the committee met, and this is the new committee we created that our bylaw says we should have. Henry and Daniel are on that committee, along with the park board members. We included them because most of these items are part of the park in some way. So it was a very good meeting, very good discussion, and if you can see, there there's three sections of this. One's the current year, just to kind of, what are we doing today, and then with this budget. And that was item number 1, says current year. On the page 25, number 2 says next year. That's 2023 and 24 budget. And those are proposed activities and achievements that we would do for next year, starting October 1. And then if you switch over to page 26, you'll see item number 3, and that's future years. Those are more long range, 2 to 5 years. And as you can see, most of those are very expensive and would require a lot of grant type of activity. Or at some point, we're going to set aside some money each year to make that. So within each one, they're all the same. A is Parks and Recreation, B is Community Health Program, C is Library, D is Senior Citizens, and E is more cultural arts. And so you see those throughout in the same flow. I don't want to go into each individual one because we would be here a long time unless you have specific questions. But we can't do anything about item number 1 because that's what we're doing now, and that's what either this board or the city council has budgeted for. Item 2 and 3, which is next year's budget, and in future years we can have an impact on that going forward. So a lot of stuff in there.
If I may report from, Dan and I were in that meeting, and basically what this is, and I'm referring to next year, not the current year, is basically it's a continuation of our effort that has been ongoing throughout the year. There's no new big item on there. It's basically the same thing. It's kind of, I don't want to call it a maintenance program, but it is a maintenance program in the sense that we keep our facilities updated and current and safe. So then of course in the like Mr. Milam said, in the third section, those are long range items that we need to find some help with money, because it's not anything the CDC or the city can handle together. So that basically is it.
What that does is upgrade community park, main baseball field with permanent stadium seating, canopy over it, lighting, netting, some irrigation, and some new fencing at the Lopez Riggins field, which is behind that elementary, a concession stand, which we need, and then also some upgrades at the Rorellas Park. They're using that for every evening for games as well. We're working in conjunction with Cameron County on that field. So the idea is to have not only for the baseball fields, but for football and soccer. We have a soccer league that's active there today. Some of the goals that this board approved some 10, 12 years ago still sit there and they still use. So those are City of Los Fresnos Community Development Corporation soccer goals. And then the idea is it would also be that whole front area, if you've been there, is a good area for those soccer fields and or football fields, which we don't have either one. So that's kind of what Henry was talking about is a grant, but we put it on next year because we think we're going to get that grant within the next year to be able to do it.
I have a question. Who's responsible for writing the grants?
Depends on the situation. our Little League, they wanted to apply for a grant, and so they wrote for that one. The city and the county gave supporting documents and supporting letters for that. They were denied. I don't remember exactly the reason. They're gonna go back again, in an attempt to do it in, I think August is the next time you can apply. I did talk to Joe Vega from Cameron County Parks. They also put in these things for the park in their master plan of a grant that they put in for Laureles Park and some of the other parks around the county. He told me, I don't remember what it was, I think it was Friday night when I ran into him at this store. He thinks that they'll get the grant, and so they'll get it there. So that one county wrote that grant. So it just depends on who we're going after. They went through Texas Parks and Wildlife for those funding. The funding that the Little League went through was the Legacy Foundation. And they gave them some pointers and said, when we rank all of them, yours just fell right below, so bring it back. Do this and do this, it'll make it more attractive, and so they're working on that.
I have a comment on this, is just on Little League. I believe when they were here, they stated there were like 400 and something kids in the program. If you go to the baseball games or the Little League games, each one of those kids brings 5 parents, 2 parents, grandma and grandpa, and a little brother or sister. So that's 400 times 5, that's 2,000, probably more, other people go to see. So you're looking at half the population of Los Fresnos is involved in this, but that's only Little League soccer. There's a rule of thumb that we don't spend our money outside our city. And that's a good rule to follow, but sometimes I think we need to go a little bit outside and help, especially when we're getting a lot of help from the county, having that park. There's no way the park and a half that we have right now, or 2 fields and a half, and I call Lopez Reagan half a field. There's no way it can handle 400 and something kids. So I want to make that comment to make it clear that we're kind of breaking our own rule about not going outside the city, but this time I think it's warranted.
State law allows this board to expend funds anywhere in your trade area. So that's pretty large area,
So we're safe.
yes.
Okay.
As a general practice, the board has said, we want to take care of Los Fresnos businesses, not Laureles, or, because Rancho Viejo's part of Rancho Viejo's in our trade area, Bayview's in our trade area, all the way to Arroyo City's in our trade area, but we have not done signs and stuff there because our residents don't go there. Their residents usually come here. And so that's been kind of the distinction.
Okay, any further questions, comments, discussion?
Guess my voice is not loud enough. Our, to give credit to our people that keep our parks, doing a real good job, getting them ready for the games. I know that later on when our season is over, there's playoffs, and sometimes we entertain some of those playoffs. Teams from Brownsville, teams from Willacy County, they come to our town, and we want to make sure that we provide the best facilities that we have. And I tell you what, our facilities are becoming better and better every time that I go out there, because I go out there regularly to the park where the baseball fields are at. I live about 2 blocks away from there, so I do my bike rides at the park, and they're clean. You can see the people out there with their weed eaters, with their blowers, and just keeping up the park, and it looks really nice. And they plant some flowers and do the landscaping, and they're doing an excellent job. So I just want to make sure that those guys don't go unnoticed.
Do I hear a motion?
We'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the Community Development Capital Improvement Program Committee Annual Report.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second that we approve the Community Development Capital Improvement Program Committee Annual Report. Any further questions, comments, discussion? That being the case, all in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, it's unanimous. Moving on to item E, report by CDC consultant. CDC consultant report April 2023. Under A, economic development. B, new research of future projects. C, community development training. And D, Earth Day. And that's page 28 of your packet. Mr. Martinez.
Hi. Thank you. And as you can see, the activity that's going on into all economic development is based in the community on jobs, number of permits issued, et cetera. And as you can see, the activity still continuing positive, that provided by the permits office. And I believe it's going to continue into the fall and winter. The contacts made in terms of information and packets, if you can, and Mr. Myla mentioned that we invest in material to send out to the ports, that we have two ports. The one that's in our navigation district, Los Fresnos, Brownsville, and of course, Port Isabel. And this packets are the ones that we send out. We add additional information. This is just the core that's that we submit to businesses, and we have inventory for about 2 to 3 years of the material. Those are the folders we had just run out, so we ordered some more, and very, very attractive, catches attention, and then the information is no doubt vital in developing business plans for business and industry. You can see some of those contacts there. That we have submitted information from them, not only electronically, but also in paper form, so they can have it on their desk type of thing. Frankly, an e-commerce business that communicated since the last few years when e-commerce has developed into a light industry. Many, and we have them here in Los Fresnos Market. And they have contacted me. We don't have e-commerce necessary type facilities because they require storage and UPS. And working with a local individual that's developing a park. And hopefully an all-inclusive, not only for the manufacturing that he's doing for the Trico and other stuff that happens in Brownsville and other areas, and Maquilas, but he's proposing something, and I'm having discussions with him. He'll be visiting with you in the next month or two. I've held discussions with a realtor that represents a company, as you can see there, that has a franchise in the valley, RGV. In the last few years too, pre-decade, and during the last 20 years, many investments from people from Mexico have come in with new products and new types of activities. Aguas Frescas is one of them, and they're looking for a site here. Which goes to the next one. Another local that developed a plaza is also looking for a site for an additional plaza. And working with him, not only giving him information for his business plan, but also providing him demographics and other, but also providing him assistance to connectivity with our realtors and some nonprofits that have some land in town that both commercial and potentially residential. As you can see, also what we do in our office is every 2 years we participate in the legislative process of things that deal with economic development. And HR 4749 for Rural Small Cities Economic and Infrastructure Planning Bill presented a lot of information that went through our office to our state representatives, and that is in the process. And if you look it up under Representative Lopez website, you will see that it's there, and it went, I testified in front of them the need to have this local governance and additional opportunities to develop new planning strategies in our rural communities. And also doing research and assistance discussions on affordable housing. Affordable housing, like I told you before, is defined by U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for low and moderate income families and working class for this area is homes that value no more than $120,000. Those are far apart, but they can be done in a planned development, in a developer that wants to have volume versus one big one, a lot of little ones type thing, and working to look for sites from nonprofits and private owners to hope that because there's a diversity of workers out there, not only professional workers can afford this type of what we have developing right now, but also the working class at the port and others. And affordable housing is a very essential thing about the city to grow. Not only grow for the families, but also grow for the school district, also grow for the infrastructure, our water plants, our sewer plants, connections, etc., so that our prices can be kept at bay. Finally, the community development, which you all talked about a lot today in parks and other, but events and promotion have continuously happened and developed to a nice level. Earth Day was a complete success, thanks to everybody. And Bill, I hope he gets well. He was one of those on that committee. Next is 4th of July will be championed by our Chamber of Commerce and our city staff and city personnel, and will be happening next. The Conjunto Festival, we met with them, and we're offering to ask them if they can develop new concepts of new folk lifestyle performances from throughout, representing Texas and the Conjunto, of course, with the accordion. It's such a, you can see, their logo is fantastic. It's beautiful, representative of who we are, both rural and a beautiful economy where you can have fun and a good time. So, any questions? Any new potential items you'd like for me to research? Please bring it to my attention. Yes, sir.
I do have one question. This Joe out of Tennessee, it's interesting. A manufacturer. What kind of what
Sure.
is exactly the manufacturer?
He didn't explain. It was one we have on our the city website. Mr. Martin going to explain it in better how we have on our website where people that are looking for sites can ask for information. I got the referral from Mr. Milo and Jackie, and it came through that website. If you want to respond to that, Mr. Milo.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what he was, but
Yeah, he did say he was just looking for sites.
he didn't want to
Expose the company, yeah.
let people know this time, so.
They give you very little,
Yeah, there's a,
a lot of information.
yeah, so we send them the demographics, mapping, et cetera, opportunities available not only locally, state and federal, that through this office and through the city management, that we can help them get it done. And of course, anything else, Mr. Chairman?
This morning, I was very excited because I had seen a sign out there by the Parra Tamales that there was a coffee shop.
Yes.
And I went over there looking for a shot of espresso. In case you all don't know, that's the energy that some of us have.
Yes.
And it turns out there's no coffee shop.
Oh.
I'd like for you to look for a Starbucks type place. Brownsville has 2 Starbucks, one on either side of the expressway.
Yes, sir.
And then there's
Yes,
2
sir.
other coffee places, 7 Brew and Human Being.
Yes, sir.
And just to show you that I do know about this.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see one here. We don't have any place for espresso.
Sites
I'm a Folgers guy.
They have a coffee, it's called Wolver, Wolver, something like that. They're really big in Brownsville, and they have a little spot here in Stephanie's Cheesecakes. And they sell specialty
Well, but she moved from over there. Where did she go?
to Corona Plaza next to Red Restaurant. No. Next to Burgers, Craft Burgers or something like that. Bros Craft Burgers.
Okay.
Next to Divine.
Okay, where the smoke shop is and the secondhand store. Pardon me for calling it that. Okay, well, another one wouldn't hurt, Mr. Martinez.
I was looking at the total duplex construction, 22 this month? 22 this month?
Push the button, Mr. Martinez. Push the button.
We'll be having a meeting with our congressman, and that's one of the things we'll be discussing. Not only multifamily is always investment fast and moving, but single family is the toughest job of all in terms of getting homes for families. Any question? Anyone? Thank you. Call me and if you have anything you would like for me to do outreach on.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll get
Martinez.
back with you on that one, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item F, report by general manager. A, Veterans Memorial. B, lighting at Memorial Park. C, city brand advertising message. And D, landscaping visibility for business. That's page 31 of your packet. Mr. Milo.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Veterans Memorial project is moving along. Bids are due May 25th, so we're praying for some good numbers, good low numbers, but quality. Can we do all that at once? Quality, good low. I did see someone out today looking at the area and looking at the little box out front where the electricity will run. So I know there's at least one person looking at it. Hopefully May 25th we'll have some good numbers and something to bring to you in the June meeting. Lighting at Memorial Park is done. They completed that last week. Those parts that they were waiting for came in and they installed those. It looks really, really good at night. City brand advertising message, we haven't moved anything on that yet. We'll be working on that in the next few weeks. The landscaping visibility for business, we're done. That was done over the last 2 weeks, so that project is complete. And that's all I have.
There's pictures here of the basketball courts.
That is. I think they go off at 11. The park has a time, I think it's 11. It might be 10 on Monday, Sunday through Thursday, and 11 Friday, or 11 Sunday through Thursday, and 12 Saturday and Sunday. I can't remember, but one of those times. And then they automatically go off. But it's bright. Yeah.
That concludes your report, Mr. Milo.
Yes, sir.
Item G, the time is 6:54. Meeting adjourned.